Today on Hollywood Guns, we've spared no expense and we're diving into one of the most distinctive and instantly recognizable shotguns ever to grace the silver screen. But here's the twist, it's never actually fired on screen in the movie, at least not in the way that you'd expect. 4 off-camera shots aimed at a dinosaur left a lasting impression on me for all the wrong reasons. I'll break that down later as we analyze how Hollywood's portrayal stacks up against reality. But if you want to see this shotgun truly unleashed, stick around to the end. I'll take you through the movies and scenes that cemented its place in cinematic history, including its very first on-screen appearance in one of the biggest action blockbusters of the 1980s. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the big dog, perhaps the only gun officially certified as T-Rex rated, the Franchi SPAS-12 from Jurassic Park.
Hello and welcome to Hollywood Guns. I'm your host Wilson. Whether you're into action flicks, classic thrillers, or unforgettable TV shows, this is the place where movie magic meets real-world firearms.
Pushing 10, moving. On tasers on full charge. Come on, let back in. Offering, raise the gate.
History of the gun. Once again, I am on location at the Bear Arms Reference Collection in Scottsdale, Arizona, filming one of their historical pieces. I've had the pleasure of filming several of their historically significant firearms recently, so if you live in the area, please drop by their location and let them know that Hollywood Guns sent you. Let's do a quick safety check. By the way, this gun is not the most ergonomic and user-friendly, so please excuse me because I will probably fumble it several times. Okay, we are clear, and to drop the chamber, you have to press this and away we go. All right, we can sort of begin now. The Franchi SPAS-12, short for Special Purpose Automatic Shotgun, was developed in Italy by Franchi in 1979. The shotgun was designed to serve dual purposes, operating both as a semi-automatic and pump-action shotgun. This is a big old beast. I'm not sure if you can see this in the small space that I've got to film in, but this is a very large and intimidating weapon. Now, it operates mainly in semi-automatic mode, which you engage by pushing this button here below the handguard and then pushing it forward into semi-automatic mode. You can change between that by pressing the button again and sliding it back into pump action mode like that. And then it will cycle in pure pump action mode. Let me show you. Again, you have to pull this little lever here, push it back there, and then you can basically slide around it like that.
It is just a delay. That's all it is. All major theme parks have delays. When they opened Disneyland in 1956, nothing worked.
Yeah, but John, if the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
I can't wait anymore. Something went wrong. I'm gonna go get the power back on.
You can't just stroll down the road, you know?
Well, don't let it be too hasty. I mean, you've only been gone.
I'm going with you.
The semi-automatic system uses a short-stroke gas piston. Gas from the barrel pushes the piston, which drives 2 operating rods to cycle the bolt. The gas block and piston are annular, encircling the magazine tube to save space. You wouldn't know that because this is an absolute giant firearm. It has a magazine cutoff as well, which prevents the magazine from releasing a round, allowing the operator to load a different shell without unloading and chambering a new one. The folding stock model has this rounded butt hook for one-handed use, would you believe, such as while rappelling down a cliff face or firing from a vehicle. The way it deploys is as such. There is a little lever here, which we push, and then it folds down like so, like that, and forms a normal stock. And again, if you wanted to use it for one-hand firing, you have to push this in and rotate it like so. And then it acts like an arm brace, if you like. Do you see? Let me give this a go. I'm a 6 foot guy. I go to the gym pretty often. That is a heavy firearm to shoot one-handed. Although, obviously there is one guy out there that can shoot this one-handed, which we'll get to later on in the video. The SPAS-12's robust design, intimidating aesthetics, and unique folding stock made it a popular choice of over 14 military and law enforcement agencies around the world. Interestingly, I could not find evidence that it was actually adopted in its native of Italy. However, verified users of the SPAS-12 include Brazil, Indonesia, Malaysia's SWAT-style agencies, and in the US, while not standard issue weapon because most agencies adopted a Benelli M4 variant, the SPAS-12 was occasionally seen in use by SWAT teams and other specialized units that were able to choose their own weaponry. Now, I believe it's probably France that has the most famous agency on the list to adopt the SPAS-12, the French GIGN, Groupe d'Intervention de la Gendarmerie Nationale. This is a Tier 1 unit equivalent in capabilities and functions to the US's Delta Force or British SAS.
The shotgun must have turned off all offenses. Damn it, even Ned knew better than to mess with a raptor. Come on, this way.
Despite its popularity, the SPAS-12's weight and complexity were often cited as drawbacks. And no kidding, like I said, this is a very strange firearm to learn and become confident with the manual of arms. But anyway, in the US, evolving firearm legislation led to the shotgun being classified as a non-sporting firearm under the 1989 assault weapons import ban. And Franchi immediately responded by changing the name SPAS-12 to SPAS-12, but this time the acronym stood for Sporting Purpose Automatic Shotgun. But that didn't last very long because further legislation in 1994, the federal assault weapons ban, effectively killed off all new importations of this model. And as such, examples of this shotgun have absolutely soared in price in the used market. If you want one at the time of writing this video at the beginning of 2025, in the Jurassic Park specification, with the folding stock, you can expect to fork out something like $4,000 to $5,000 at least, and if you can find one. With that being said, the 1994 federal assault weapons ban sunsetted in 2004, and the manufacturer Franchi actually still exists, and is now part of Beretta Group. And in recent years, we've seen a resurgence in popularity of vintage models of guns, especially for Beretta with their 92 series, which they've continued to sell ever since they launched it in 1976. And then recently they reintroduced their 80 series. So perhaps if we lobby Beretta hard enough and send them a bunch of emails, there could be a chance, albeit a very small one, that we might see the Franchi SPAS-12 reintroduced in the future. And that would be cool. I would absolutely love one of these shotguns.
I can see the shed from here. We can make it if we run.
No, we can't.
Why not?
Because we're being hunted.
Oh, God.
From the bushes straight ahead. It's all right.
Like hell it is.
Run. Towards the shed. I've got her. Go. Now.
Welcome to the Interlude. I thought I'd just bring out another one of my semi-automatic firearms, shotguns. This is the Molo Vepr 12 in 12 gauge, obviously. I need some help. I'd love to feature this on the channel, but I can't think of any movies or TV shows that this featured in. So if you know of one, please let me know. And while we're on the subject, have you subscribed to the channel yet? Are you enjoying the content? Don't leave it to the algorithm to tell you when a new episode is out. Please take a moment right now, hit the pause button, subscribe, and click the bell icon so that you never miss another episode of Hollywood Guns. I'm also excited to announce my exclusive line of shirts featuring iconic movie guns from these episodes is now finally available on the YouTube store. The first design features an AMT hardball alongside with laser sighting from your favorite movie and mine, the Terminator. Purchasing one of these shirts is the best way to support the channel. Every dollar goes directly towards acquiring and showcasing more legendary movie guns in future episodes. And then while we're on the subject, if there is a movie gun that you would like to see me feature on the channel, please drop a comment and I will add it to my audience wish list. Thanks again. Why the gun was chosen for the movie. Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park was a groundbreaking film in many ways, predominantly because of the use of CGI. Gave us our first ever kind of look at lifelike sized dinosaurs and their kind of natural behaviors. And so the SPAS-12, I think, was selected for a couple of reasons. Firstly, its kind of futuristic and aggressive design made it an ideal choice for a movie about cutting-edge science gone awry. It projects a huge amount of power and sophistication for a weapon necessary, for a big game hunter who's got to control large, dangerous game, in this particular case, dinosaurs. It was wielded by Park Warden Robert Muldoon, and he was kind of cast as a rugged and very capable character. And I think the SPAS-12's intimidating appearance and tactical functionality mirrors his kind of persona. And then secondly, its credibility in other action movies, which we're going to get to in a few minutes. By the early 1990s, the SPAS-12 had already appeared in several other high-profile films, building a reputation as kind of a go-to blockbuster level shotgun, and its inclusion in Jurassic Park kind of further cemented its iconic status. And arguably, this model is forever will be known as the T-Rex gun. Prop used in the movie versus this example. I'll put some stills on the screen of the SPAS-12 being used by Muldoon in the opening sequences and the Velociraptor hunt, but you can clearly see that it is an early imported model that has this safety lever here, and it has the full-length magazine tube that holds 8 rounds and this folding stock. There is one difference between this particular gun and the movie one that I can see, and that is in the movie they've removed the hook. Let me show you how you do that. And that comes off just like that. And then when you unfold the stock, that is how it looks in the movie. Presumably they felt they weren't going to do one-handed shot firing on dinosaurs, and so they didn't need that particular accessory. Accuracy of the SPAS-12's portrayal in Jurassic Park. As teased in the intro, this section is a bit of a letdown. Let's breeze through it and move on to the exciting part. Other movies where the SPAS-12 gets to shine. Firearm capacity. The SPAS-12 in the movie features a full-length magazine tube capable of holding 8 2 3/4-inch shells. While Muldoon dramatically wields the shotgun in the iconic opening scene, he never actually fires it. Instead, we have to wait until the climactic finale when Dr. Alan Grant, played by Sam Neill, discharges it.
It's gonna come through the glass!
We hear 4 shots off camera, well within the shotgun's capacity, before the camera cuts to the SPAS-12 abandoned on the floor. Eagle-eyed viewers will notice a shell stovepiped in the breech, preventing another round from chambering, which likely explains why the gun was dropped. This attention to detail, and only 4 shots fired, earns a movie a grade A for firearm capacity accuracy. Caliber capability. Here's where things go off the rails, unfortunately. It's safe to assume Muldoon, a seasoned big game hunter, would have loaded the SPAS-12 with slugs for dinosaur defense and not birdshot. However, the film's portrayal raises 3 serious questions. 1. We hear 4 shots, but only see 3 holes in the window, placed in a tight grouping. Where's that 4th shot?
It's gonna come through the glass!
Secondly, the room is protected with reinforced glass, designed to withstand dinosaur attacks, and it's unlikely to be penetrated by a shotgun slag, which lacks the speed and power needed for such a feat. High-caliber rifle cartridges like the .338 Lapua Magnum or 50 BMG would be required for that kind of penetration. Number 3, the size of the holes is concerning. Based on the size of the cracking around each hole, they look too small for slug impacts to me. It's more plausible that the prop team used the standard pane of glass and fired a 9mm or 45 handgun to create these effects. Given these glaring inaccuracies, this category unfortunately receives a grade F. Actor and firearm accuracy. Dr. Grant's shots are made at close range, so the grouping is plausible. However, the missing fourth shot and the overall lack of action for a shotgun hailed as the T-Rex gun leave much to be desired. Considering the SPAS-12 cinematic legacy from this movie, the lack of significant usage here feels like a missed opportunity. Begrudgingly, this category earns a grade C. Overall grade for firearms accuracy of the SPAS-12 in the movie Jurassic Park, a grade C. Other movies and scenes the firearm was used in. After a bit of a letdown in Jurassic Park, fortunately the SPAS-12 is no stranger to Hollywood, making appearances in nearly 100 movies and TV shows beyond it. Here are some standout moments. In Miami Vice, the SPAS-12 is featured in several episodes across the first 3 seasons, including a favourite of mine where legendary IPSC shooter Jim Zubiana, playing a hitman, wields a nickel-plated SPAS-12. Zubiana, who served as a firearms consultant for Michael Mann's projects, is credited with popularising Mann's signature Mozambique drill, 2 shots to the chest, 1 to the head, seen in Miami Vice, Manhunter, Heat and Collateral.
You stand right there!
In The Hitcher from 1986, Rutger Hauer uses the SPAS-12 in the climactic scenes of this cult horror classic, where he plays a psychopathic drifter terrorizing motorists on a desolate desert highway. In Beverly Hills Cop 2, the SPAS-12 appears in the hands of the late great John Ashton as Sergeant Taggart. This channel has already covered several iconic guns from this film, including the HK-P7 and the Browning High Power. In Snatch, Guy Ritchie's second film, and arguably his best, features a star-studded cast including Brad Pitt, Jason Statham and Benicio del Toro. In one memorable scene, Vincent wields a SPAS-12 during his crew's ill-fated attempt to rob a bookie shop owned by one of the nastiest gangsters in British cinema history. This robbery eventually lands the crew on the wrong side of the chilling line, "Freedom to the pigs, Errol."
Just worry about getting us a gun, yeah?
Yeah?
What's that?
This is a shotgun, so?
And finally, the moment you've been waiting for, the SPAS-12's first ever on-screen appearance, arguably the film that could carry this entire episode. The Terminator immortalized the SPAS-12 in 2 of the most iconic gun scenes in cinema: the unforgettable gun store sequence and the Terminator's assault on the police station.
The 12-gauge autoloader.
That's Italian. You can go pump or auto. So, which will it be?
All.
And they close early today. It's a 15-day wait on the handguns, but the rifles you can take right now. You can't do that.
Wrong.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is another wrap. Once again, thanks to Bear Arms Reference Collection in Scottsdale, Arizona, for letting me film this wonderful piece of cinematic history. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button and leave me a comment about what you enjoyed, what I got wrong, which movie guns you'd like to see me feature next, and if you have any other ideas of additional content that I could feature on this channel that would make it better, please let me know. I'll be back again soon with another episode, so keep your eyes peeled.
cow.